Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Chocolate Sane, Paul, and I think that's it in G+. How you all doing?
Doing great.
Good to have you all.
Good morning.
We've also got a fair few people in Discord, so welcome one and all. Hi Nathan, it's really good to be... Yeah, it's really good to have you all. Such an enthusiastic Discord server. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Well, not from Mexico.
Nope. Wait, that's not you in Mexico?
No, I just decided every time I say not from California, I might as well just say everywhere I've ever been because I've never seen it.
I see. What about axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Any signs of that?
Nope.
No spin zone.
No evidence of Earth-based Coriolis. No evidence.
No deviation of any kind.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Impossible.
For anyone watching that's not a regular viewer, that means space is fake. Sky is not a vacuum. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
More cartoon characterizations of something they can't prove.
Well, the priest...
They do got some cool cartoons, though. I mean, other than that, no.
Lovely, lovely cartoons. Page 37 of your high school textbook, right?
That's because, Chocolate, your icon is a cartoon. You're biased.
Yep. So, but that would mean I should believe in it, right?
No.
But I don't. So apparently I can differentiate between cartoons and reality. Thanks.
Any evidence of the R value, the presupposition of a spherical radius?
No evidence of the R value, but they have it in everything, and they talk from that position at the starting gate.
But sticks and shadows, Nathan. Come on, sticks and shadows. They prove our value.
That's still presupposed R. It's still presupposing Earth's a sphere. I love those kind of silences. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, just the light in the sky, and no one has measured it.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
The non-force force.
A non-force. Force that you can think of as a force, but is not actually a force. That gives rise to a force that's not a force, called gravity.
long as you don't force me to answer this question, I'll be okay.
Boom, boom. So that concludes the housekeeping. Yeah,
You know, growing up, all they had was gravity. That's all they talked about. It's this. Now I'm no longer a child, and all this time, oh well, it's never really there.
Hello.
Hey, Alwyn. I did a couple of adverts for those of you, I've said this already on the pre-show, but for those of you watching on Nathan Oakley 1980, I just did a couple of adverts for Martin Leitke, or Leitke, otherwise known as Flat Earth British, so check out those adverts. There's links to his singular new channel, so his least subscribed channel, on account of the fact that it's brand new, about 3 days old. Essentially, Martin had a 30,000 subscriber channel and a backup channel that unfortunately was linked to it by way of email. Subsequently, there wasn't any way to retain control of that second backup channel, so he's had to start completely from fresh. So as I say, there are a couple of adverts that have stuck out on both this Nathan Oakley 1980 and the backup channel for me, Nathan Oakley, that are just directing people to go and subscribe to that particular channel. So yeah, Be Here or Be Sphere on Martin Leak's channel, which is Flat Earth British, the show that he runs. Good stuff. Spread the word.
Yeah, I went on and subscribed yesterday.
Put out the link in chat.
There again, Alwyn.
Put out the link in chat. I'm
I
trying
could
to
do,
find
couldn't
it.
I? Yeah, that's a good idea.
Morning, all.
Hey.
Morning, chocolate.
Yo, it's good, righteous.
Chilling, man, chilling. Excited for today's show.
It may be a calm one. You know, there's been a line drawn under Coriolis effect in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I was in the Discord one late night, early morning, up until like 4 o'clock, going back and forth with a couple of the guys.
Lots of soul searching and contemplation, dealing with loss, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a mental block there, like a mental disconnect as to why they disagree with us. It doesn't have to do with the data. At least that's my take on it, because when I explain to them why there's a difference between the physical application of what Coriolis is versus them trying to get me to intellectualize what they mean, I pointed that out. But if I can point that out, that means it's a real concern, but they don't like it. So
No, they definitely don't like it.
I wonder if
well, since it's slow, I actually had a good idea.
You may have to repeat that. You cut off at the end.
yeah, he's in and out.
Yeah, as fluid as ever. I've just stuck Martin's.
Yeah, no, sorry about that.
That's okay.
So are you guys like, do you stream the show on Facebook at all?
I don't stream it on Facebook. I only use Facebook to send links to the YouTube video daily. Depending on what mood I'm in, I might send one out for the after show. Today I've sent this one out, so this has had links go out to Facebook, Twitter, Skype.
In the future, if possible, is there any way to get the show on Facebook Live? Because I have a lot of conversation on Facebook, and I would like to do it in real time, like set up a live party or something like that to watch as I'm explaining why everybody else's arguments are wrong. Not just to shout it out and say you're wrong, but to basically point out the fact of why they're wrong. And I think just expanding it to Facebook on a live basis would be awesome. If you had time to do it, if it wasn't that complicated.
I've done it before. I mean, I've done it like you can live stream from YouTube. You can just start a live stream on your mobile phone via Facebook, and I've done that a couple of times, but for mostly for videos of my family and to try and figure out how to use it. But as for using a stream key and simulcasting via Facebook, it's certainly something I can look into. Thanks for giving me the nod. It's something I hadn't thought about in a long while.
It's a very good idea because I'm in groups with large amounts of people, and I usually get them to think. I usually get them to go, okay, hasn't been presented like this from other flat earthers. I look into it, and usually I'll say, yeah, watch the show, and then they go to the show. It's, bro, I'm not watching an hour and a half. So if I'm doing it real time, you know, it just makes a difference, and I'm sure the show could grow that way. Any way the show could grow helps. So, you know, I'm just saying.
Sure.
Hey.
Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
What's up, Riley?
Have I missed housekeeping? Is it gone?
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's gone, Riley.
Can I have a massive whinge?
Yeah, go ahead. Mike's all yours.
Let me get it on screen. I should have really had this ready. I had it open a minute ago. Where is it? You know, do you remember the other day when we had was it Jolyon Bloomfield's citation on screen, and the rumpus read from it, and there was two sentences. There was the first sentence that supported the rumpus, and then he completely didn't mention at all the second sentence that totally destroyed his argument, because basically it destroyed his argument and he didn't want us to know about it. Well, obviously that was on the back of a hangout that I had where I gave Rumpus pre-disclosure of my arguments, and Rumpus didn't give me the pre-disclosure back. I accept that he didn't give me the pre-disclosure back because he didn't realize it was required or asked of. And I'll put it down to a simple misunderstanding. But the same things happened with Gem Panda and this guy, Artexis, whatever his name is. I'm not familiar with the guy's name. Where they've read one part of a sentence, but then completely ignored the second part, which totally contradicts their position. And they've misled loads of people that are paying attention at the minute to the topic in question. And I just want to show this, because this is, well, this is like Rumpus times 1,000. We all know what Rumpus did was wrong. He knows it was wrong. You can't just ignore the second part because it doesn't suit your position. But what Gem Panda and this other guy have done is so much worse. And I'm just lost for words that this can even be, you know, this is even acceptable by the Ball Earthers. And really, I want people on the Ball Earth side to question the honesty of what Gem Panda's trying to argue, because it's not okay to pick and choose the bits that support your assertion if there's an immediately following sentence that does not. So I'm just getting to the relevant thing. Here we go. So if I screen share now, let me just get rid of this here. So if I put that there, and then I put this here. Okay, so screen share, and everyone's going to have a view on this, and it's totally fine, because we don't really know the answer to the posed question. So most people will be familiar that I've asked the question to the judiciary, if you will, whether or not the teaching of the Copernican model is lawful, in the sense that it's a bit of a one-sided topic, and there are opposing views that don't get mentioned, and if they do get mentioned, they get ridiculed with scorn. And one of the points that's come up in the conversation is that the question that I'm asking is not by definition political. Now, in the lead case, which I've got on screen now, Dimmock against Secretary of State, because it was to do with an overtly political video, the judge did not define what is political in the context of an overtly political video, because it was overtly political. So he didn't define what it is. But what he did say is what it's not. And what the judge said in the Dimmock case at paragraph 4 earlier on is: the defense counsel for the Secretary of State with equal skill, has adopted a very realistic position on the part of the defendants, does not challenge that the film promotes political views. There is thus no need to consider any analysis or definition of the word political. And then it says, in brackets, which is plainly not limited to party political, such as that in the McGovern case, right? So if you can remember at this point that it's not limited to party political, but the ball earth morons have come back to me and said, Riley, but your case isn't political by nature. And that may well be true. That may ultimately be the decision of the judge or the court in question when deciding whether or not this is lawful to teach the children the way it teaches. And they cite these two paragraphs, but they stop at this point here. So in the first paragraph, it reads, scientific hypotheses, such as the hypothesis that climate change is mainly attributable to man-made emissions of greenhouse gases, do not themselves constitute political views within the meaning of 407, even if they are doubted by particular political groups. But in any event, nothing in the 96 Act obliges teachers to adopt a position of studied neutrality between, on the one hand, scientific views which reflect the great majority of world scientific opinion, and, on the other, a minority view held by a few dissident scientists. We could paraphrase that into heliocentrism really pretty easily. I'm not going to do it, but we can all imagine how that would translate. But then this is the bit where it goes a little bit dishonest, a lot dishonest, because they read from this and they claim this is a massive humdinger of a victory for them. And I completely and utterly think this is dishonest. They say it continues at 19. Of course, that is right. And 406 and 407 are not concerned with scientific disputes or with the approach of teachers to them. I agree with that. That's not the contentious issue. That's the bit that they're saying is what Riley loses his case on. But I agree with this. This is not about whether or not there is a scientific dispute and how teachers teach it. It's not about whether or not the Earth's flat or not. It's not about whether the Earth's a ball or not. That bit is absolutely correct and is not my point. They stop here and they do not proceed with the following sentence. And I'm going to point out to everybody that's watching this right now that this is fundamentally dishonest, because the sentence continues and it starts with the word however. It says, however, as will be seen, some of the errors or departures from the mainstream by Al Gore in the course of his dynamic exposition do arise in the context of alarmism and exaggeration in support of his political thesis. That is a really key point, because you can paraphrase that into a documentary by flat earthers, for example, in the course of our dynamic exposition, do arise in the context of, I don't know, fraudulent application of the scientific method and pseudoscience being presented as real science in support of our political argument that perhaps this might not be lawful. So it translates perfectly, right? But this is the key bit. It is in that context that the defendant, the Secretary of State, in actively distributing the films to all schools, may need to make it clear that some or all of the matters promoted by some or all of those matters are not supported or promoted by the defendant, and then there is a view to the contrary, i.e. at least the mainstream view. So if we were to create a political document, a political kind of brochure or video similar to Al Gore's video, and we were then to be able to present it somehow, I don't know how Al Gore did this, but if we were to present a politically charged and politically motivated counter argument to the teachings of the heliocentric argument, to say that, well, how do you have gas pressure next to it, and all the housekeeping points, then Al Gore would, the Secretary of State would have to put these disclaimers on, these two disclaimers, one saying that these views are not supported, but whatever, but and there is a view to the contrary, the mainstream. But isn't that also true the other way around too? If there are opposing views that are treated under Section 406, are promoted as partisan political, because it is true that there is only a one-sided presentation of views, one-sided meaning partisan. It is promoted. There are no other views that are dissenting views demonstrated or made aware to children that people don't all accept this. And then the political element to it is, well, at the end of the day, the national curriculum is policy by the government. That policy being implemented is political. Now, how you interpret political is important, because the judge didn't define what political is. He defined what it's not. And we know that it's not limited to party political. But I would say, well, it makes sense that if there's a policy called the national curriculum, a policy of change that allows things to be put in and removed from the national curriculum, that policy, that government policy, it makes sense that that policy would be political because it is the views of the government at the time in relation to what the kids are being taught. Nobody could tell me that that's not right because it isn't defined by any judge. You might disagree. That might be true. That might well be all well and good. There may be another interpretation that the judge might adopt himself to what is political. He may go with something completely else, something completely different. But to completely dismiss the following sentences that follow this is not really acceptable, because all we've got to do to make this political is to present some opposing views, which we can do, and make them political in our approach. And then all of a sudden, it is then political by definition. We've created it as political the way that Al Gore did. That makes the topic political the way Al Gore did. Do we need to do that? It looks like we have to, but it's kind of already political anyway, because there are enough people in Flat Earth as a topic questioning whether or not A, it's a ball, and B, right now we're looking at, is it being taught lawfully? And it may be that it's not being taught lawfully, or it may be that it is. But at least it's a legitimate question about progressing the point to see whether or not we can prove that it is actually a sphere. Because if they can't prove that there's a gravity or that there's an axial rotation or all the things that are in there, it really shouldn't be being taught, because that is pseudoscience. And everybody just accepts it because it's the official narrative. Well, what if it's not if it's not complying with the scientific method, and it's therefore pseudoscience, and it's being pushed on children, and there's no alternative views presented to alert children that there's a legitimate conversation there, and there's therefore no subsequent debate that follows? I got to 37, 38, and I didn't realize that this was a contentious topic. But if I had found out at the age of 13, 14, 15, that not everybody shared the same views, and there were legitimate opposing views to the contrary, and these are the reasons why, and they were presented in a balanced presenting way to show that you can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum without some kind of container, then that would have brought the conversation that I'm having right now as an adult back to the age when I was about 15, 16, 17, and I'd have been asking for the science that proves it. That is a much more healthy position to be in as a child, where you can have proper debate in the classroom with intelligent people, not morons on the internet with trolls and zero. Because if you come to this topic as an adult, you end up with the likes of Mark Taylor and co. That's not legitimate opposition. What you want is, you want Mr. Johnson telling you that gas pressure can exist next to a vacuum, and you want to then say, but sir, how do you prove that? And then Mr. Johnson's not able to prove it. And then he has to say, well, not everybody agrees with this. But the point is that you have that back and forth, the debate, the discussion at the time when you're in school, when you've got intelligent people with you, libraries and stuff like that, you've got resources. Not when you leave it into adulthood and you end up with moron trolls that ring up like Bob Nodell off guard whilst he's live broadcasting stuff and get him to commit atrocities in his verbal vocabulary or whatever. That's completely ridiculous. How can we have a legitimate conversation when you have the actions of trolls that dox people or that ring them up at 3 a.m. when they know that the mum's dying? All that kind of nonsense. Why can't we have a normal conversation? And ultimately, the 96 Act requires at Section 406, it requires there to be a non-promotion. It needs to be not promoted any partisan political views. Well, it does seem to be political. We do need a judge to decide what is political in this context, but it's definitely partisan and it is definitely promoted. And I don't agree with it. I think that's unlawful. And I don't think there's any moron baller out there that can prove me wrong. Because I think that when you implement policy of a state, that's kind of by definition political. You might not agree with me. I might be wrong. The judge may disagree with me. I might be wrong. But what does political mean when it's not limited to party politics? I don't know. And I'm asking that question. But neither does anybody else in this topic. But at least we can all say that we are being brainwashed because you can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum without some kind of membrane. Everybody realizes that that's a contradiction. And they just don't like this conversation. And that's why they got to put it in the bin. Well, you guys just don't understand what's going on here. It's being asked, and it may end up in court at some point. Right at the moment, it might not do. And it is purely academic. It may never go anywhere. But at least it'll stimulate conversation. So let's not have a conversation about ridicule and scorn. Let's have a conversation about whether it's lawful or not that you get taught a one-sided education that allows you to believe that you can have gas pressure without a membrane of some kind next to a vacuum. It's ridiculous. I'm done.
Right, you're being heckled from the audience by Trish Blythe. First super chat. There's 3. Do you hear that sigh? I will debate you. You just. Sorry, I'll start again. I will debate you just to make this stop. That was her first super chat. Second super chat. We can't let the audience be the judge. Come on, I told you to stop. That was her second super chat. And her third. So from Trish Blythe again. Thank you very much for all the super chats, Trish. I will prove you wrong. It's not promotion. It's on the curriculum. It's teaching.
It is promotion. By definition, promotion requires proper tuition and debate as defined by the Dimmick case. And there is no proper tuition. There's only like one-sided tuition that allows them to believe gas pressure next to a vacuum is okay. That's not proper tuition. There's definitely no debate. That's the requirements for promotion from the Dimmick case. So there's definitely no promotion. If you think you can prove that wrong, be my guest. Dimmick doesn't agree with you. What else you got?
Thank you again for the super chats, Trish Blythe.
You know, I'd agree with you, Riley, because I remember being in high school and having them roll one of those televisions in and having to sit and watch a whole special or program or documentary or whatever with Al Gore telling everybody that we're all going to be underwater in about 10 years. Now, this was about, 20 years ago. So we're not underwater, apparently. So, but I had to sit there in the classroom and watch it and, almost accept it. Okay, this is what's going to happen, kids, if we don't start doing something.
They're still doing it, Chocolate. This little girl yesterday who hit the news, she was an actress. She was paid to cry on television about robbing her childhood away. I mean, it's the left goes to no limits. They'll pull out child actors, and then some family will be watching it at dinner time, and their child will say, "Yeah, they taught that in school too." And such a joke.
Nathan, I want you to address the rumpus for me. He says, gas pressure can exist perfectly happily without a container. If something like gravity exerts a force on the gas particles, easy and observed to be correct, and gravity does exert such a force. Nathan, do you want to kill that one?
Gravity
What's
is
this
not
true
a
of
force.
walking outside?
Gravity is not a force.
Everybody knows gravity is not a force, Rumpus. How do you? What's slowing the gas particles? The velocity of the gas particles down, Rumpus. They're under pressure. So where's that pressure going? It's all going in all directions, and by definition, it's got to impact the walls of the container to have pressure, right? We definitely do have pressure, but if there's no container, then something, a force, according to Newton's second law of motion, first law of motion, an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by a force. But you haven't got a force, Rumpus, have you? Because you haven't got gravity as a force. So whatever gravity is or isn't, it's definitely not a force. But you do need something to slow that velocity of particles down. What is that force, please, Rumpus? And we know it's not gravity, so don't say gravity.
Let me ask Rumpus a question, if you can hear me. Rumpus, show me how mass or weight can overcome entropy. Demonstrate that, please.
And the other thing that Rumpus says that is hilarious, he says that scales are a force measuring device. He also says that mass is not a force. Well, if mass is not a force, given the calculation for weight is mass times little g, if mass is not a force and little g is not a force, because everywhere says that gravity is not a force, what force is exerting itself on the scales then, Rumpus? Because you haven't got mass as a force and you haven't got gravity as a force, but something's putting something on there, isn't it? There is an interaction.
And I know he did say that weight isn't a force, right? Mass, weight, none of that's a force.
No, he says weight, mass is a force. No, he says mass is not a force, weight is a force. And he says weight is a force because weight is mass times little g. So mass is not a force, but neither is little g. But something's pushing down on the scales, isn't it, Rumpus? And you can't have gravity because nobody inside agrees.
Weight's not a force, but mass times his little acceleration is a force.
That's what he said. But little g is an acceleration due to the gravitational pull of the Earth. Well, if gravity's not pulling, then that's not a force either. But there is something pushing down on the scales, isn't there, Rumpus? So what is it?
I still want to know what the force is that you added to that glass of water that made that egg move. I saw
What about-
acceleration.
It's,
What about
I didn't
it's a
see you add a
fictitious
force.
force.
What about the force that made it stop, Chocolate? Because don't forget, for an object in motion to remain in, an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by a force. There must have been two forces. There must have been a force to make it move initially, and then another force to make it stop. Gravity seems to be very confusing.
It's a fictitious force, Anthony. Do you know what a fictitious force is?
Yeah, one that doesn't exist.
No. A fictitious force, also called a pseudo force or inertial force, is a force that appears to act on a mass whose motion is described using non-inertial frames of reference.
Oh, apparent force, so it's not real.
Appears.
It just looks like it's that.
You go first, Arwin. Sorry,
Yeah.
Chocolate. Say that again, Arwin, please.
So it just appears to be like something. It isn't actually. It just looks like it.
Yeah, sort
You
of
could
similar to
mistakenly interpret
Coriolis, which
it
is not
that way.
actually force, it's an apparent deviation based on reference frame.
A
You
knot.
should be very mindful
deviation is
when
real.
words like appears ends up in definitions, because that's what gets you, right? Because something appearing to do something means it's probably not actually doing it. It's just appearing to do it, right?
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, the deviation is real. There is actually deviation going on. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
you could mistake that deviation to be caused by an apparent force, which turns out not to be the case as part of the
So
effect.
there is no deviation.
No, there is.
Not of the
There isn't.
Earth-based variety.
No.
Let's clear that up.
Right.
You
Let me
can do that on a
explain what I
merry-go-round
mean.
all day. What we're asking for here is let's prove the Earth is actually rotating, and then let's see if we can get that deviation in reality. Thanks.
Let me explain what I mean by there's no deviation. If you're on a merry-go-round and you toss a ball to the person that's directly opposite to you, the ball appears to deviate, but it's not. It's going in a straight line. It only appears to deviate because you're rotating, but it's not deviating at all.
That's why it's described as an apparent deviation. You got it.
But if it
That's
says
described as
apparent
apparent
deviation,
because
it
it's not
implies that it is
deviating.
deviating.
Hold on, Anthony. Say again, Babs.
It's described as apparent because it's not actually deviating.
Yeah.
It's because you are the one deviating in reality.
You're the
With
one
the
that's
merry-go-round.
moving in relationship to it.
I'd also like to go back. You said it was a pseudo force, and then you said right on the back of it an inertial force. Is pseudo and inertial synonymous? Number one. Number two, why are you entertaining questions from morons in the gallery? I mean, you're entertaining questions from somebody that says Mr. Air is not the atmosphere. That's number two. Thanks.
This is a definition that I read off of Google. This is not what someone else told me.
Yeah, but the question still stands. You said pseudo force and an inertial force. So does that mean pseudo and inertial are synonymous?
According to this explanation on Google, yep, they are synonymous.
Yeah. Well, then you can shit can that, can't you?
Why are they not
Is it
synonymous?
Was it Google a source or a medium?
It's a medium. Let me get the exact source. Hang on.
All right.
It's Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia or any Elmer Fudd and their sister can state anything or change anything, right? Is it cited?
No, it's not. Someone probably changed it.
Yep. If it's not cited, you could go down to the tavern and ask, Joe what he thinks about it. It has the same veracity. Thanks.
Just clarify, was that a technical term?
The fictitious force,
No, shit can.
It is a technical term.
Yeah, that is. It's file 13. File 13 shit can, same thing.
A quick shout out to SX0. Thank you for hitting the super chat. It says, good morning to all. Good morning to you, SX0, even though it's 25 to 3 here in the afternoon.
Hey, John, they may not, the Brits may not know what file 13 is. You might have to unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a shit can.
I've got another.
Thanks.
Hold on one sec, Babs. Go ahead. I heard 13. I didn't hear the other bit.
File 13. It's shit can. They're synonymous. No pun intended.
Okay, then. So,
Is it time for? Is it
just
time
want to
for a
summarize. Sorry,
shameless
just
plug?
before I know I've made a humorous aside, which wasn't very humorous, but nonetheless, I'm just going to clarify the position. So, given that it's using inertia, something that's an actual happening, with pseudo force, which is a not actual happening, then you can quote unquote shit can this nonsense from Wiki. Just noticed something on my Skype. I like having my nice big screen now. I can see what's going on around me. And around me, Anthony's currently having a row with Trish Blythe on Skype. Which is great. I sent her the link.
I guess we're gonna shit can that too.
I'm just shit staring.
We can shit can all of that.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's correct. All of that wiki nonsense, when there's a contradiction like that, where they're describing non-actual forces and giving them a comparison to a inertial force, then you can go, well, this has got a contradiction in it, so shit can.
Yeah. Yeah, I got another one for you. You don't agree that there's a distance to the moon? Or that it can be measured at all?
That's a very carefully phrased question. I don't know. My answer is going to be just as weaselly. Sorry. I don't know what the moon is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is kind of weaselly.
It is, but I don't know if it's a reflection of something, or it may not have a distance at all, for all I know. And based on the fact I don't know what it is, I'm not going to start saying that we need to measure something.
Not a
Okay,
reflection.
why do we get
hold on, I'm being heckled.
a return signal
Sorry, Babs,
when we
hold on
hit
one
it
sec.
with radio waves?
I'm just getting heckled.
I said that we know that it's not a reflection off the sun. That's for damn sure.
What, thanks to specular reflections?
Because you can't get uniform reflections. The only way that the sun can be, or the moon can be reflecting the sun's light is if the moon is flat or concave. This is 60 level optics. I'm going to be going over this on my show in a few weeks. Speaking of which, a shameless plug. Today, QE Live, man, be here or be sphere. We're going to do a couple science topics and toe tag an astronomer. Thanks.
Cool. So yeah, that's Quantum Eraser YouTube channel. Be here or be sphere, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. UK. That's Quantum Eraser channel. I just want to do a quick shout out to Bible Literalist. She says the moon must have a distance because we can focus on it or make it out of focus.
QE, whenever you toe
silly.
tag an astronomer.
Hold on, 10th
QE.
man. Sorry, just 1 second, 10th man. Go ahead, Babs.
How do we get a signal sent back when we send radio waves to the moon?
No, you don't.
What's happening with that?
No, what's happening
don't?
with that? It's people making shit up. Have you ever heard the phrase free space path loss by chance?
Say that again. Free space what?
Free space path loss by chance. Has to do with the inverse square law.
No, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I'd suggest looking into that. Go ahead and type that in, and maybe we can talk about it some later date. But you ain't bouncing any friggin' radar off no moon. No chance.
Space half loss?
Free, FREE, space path loss.
Oh, okay. What are ham radio operators talking about when they say that they can get signals back when they send radio waves to the moon?
We'll show
what
how
are they talking about?
Yeah, can you show it that it's hitting off the moon?
Right, that was my question also. In the whole
Hold on, Owen. Hold on.
They say that when they point it
No,
in different directions,
no,
they don't
I
get
need
anything
they
back.
show.
Hold on, QE. Go ahead, Babs.
They say that when they point it in different directions, they don't get anything back. But when they point it at the moon, they do get something back.
Can I respond?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
I don't care what they say. I want to see they show. Okay?
Right. Exactly.
So did you have a question?
I want to see them showing it too, yeah.
Okay.
I want the signal data comparison. Just a graph would be a start, at least. Just showing the comparison of the signal they got in full spectrum, of pointing it at the moon and away from it. That would be a start.
Okay.
It's baloney anyway because of free space path loss. It's hogwash. This conversation's academic. It's baloney.
The problem is that the mathematics for the return signal is going to be based on several things that are presupposed. First and foremost, the presupposition that Earth is a sphere. And then the distance is based on, what is it, Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion, applied to the presupposition of Earth and Venus having the same spherical radius. That's how they plot out the distances for the expected return signal. That's how they do the maths. Well, if you're basing...
There's another one.
Go on. Sorry, what was the other one? I've missed one.
There's another one. There's another assumption there. Speed of light.
Oh, of course, yes. The speed of
parallax.
the... yeah, completely forgot. Yes, of course. And the assumption of the travelling time based on the speed of light. So if you've got all of these mathematical presuppositions, and as Anthony pointed out a couple of shows ago, you take a return signal, which is just essentially a load of noise, and they say, look, this part of the noise is the return signal. Well, where are they looking for that return signal? They're looking at it in a time frame based on that presupposition of that mathematics. It's hogwash. Hey,
Is Anthony still with us?
That's going to be another topic.
Hold on, QE. Sorry, hold on.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, 10th man.
No, I was wondering when Anthony gets back, I have something for him that
Yes, please.
Paul has. Yeah, Paul, go ahead and post that. Or Nathan, can you post Paul's screen? And Anthony, I got something for you.
Yeah, sure.
So, like I was saying, that's probably going to be another show.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Oh,
we've got Paul's screen presented. 10th man's got a point to make. He's asking Sleeping Warrior. Go ahead.
Yeah, Anthony, I pulled this off of a Forbes article. I put the whole article in Masterpiece so you could go to it. It's about Al Gore and his cronies trying to get carbon credits and with this global warming nonsense. But here, interesting, it referenced a Sir Michael Burton, a judge in London's High Court. Have you seen this before?
No.
Well, read the bottom part or read the whole thing, actually. But the bottom really says it at the very end.
He stated it is built around the charismatic presence of the ex-Vice President Al Gore, whose crusade is to persuade. Jesus, that's a good phrase, isn't it? The crusade to persuade the world of the dangers of climate change caused by global warming. It is now common ground that this is not simply a science film, although it is based substantially on science research and opinion, but is clearly a political film. Yeah, it was overtly a political film. The key question is, what makes it a political film? Because
read the whole article.
By their nature are not generally political. Yeah, you may express political views.
Hold on, Anthony. Hold on. I think 10th man's trying to say you might have missed the point. Go ahead, 10th man.
Well, if you read the whole article, it's because he and his buddies, Wall Street, two-faced buddies, decided they were going to print up these carbon credits. And if you bought them early, you get them at a discount. And then if you sell them later, when all the laws pass, you're going to make $1 billion. That's the whole point of Al Gore's little game here.
Oh, they wanted to tax air more than they do already with carbon taxing. Interesting. Predates carbon taxing, right? Well, it happened anyway.
Yeah. They just want more. Always more.
Of course. Very good. Sorry,
Yeah,
QE.
that's it.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Nah, the point's lost, man. I was riveted over global warming and Al Gore. Please continue.
Well, I had a good pun and I got interrupted. I can't even say it.
I regret nothing.
Well, when QE said he was going to toe tag an astronomer, I said, well, the only thing that will happen is he'll lose his star status.
Well, a self-professed astronomy degree holder. It's been a long time coming for this knucklehead.
So,
Can't wait.
What's an astronomy degree? The ability to name stuff in the sky? How does that work?
well,
I'm
didn't
serious though.
didn't Carl Sagan have? Wasn't that something that Carl Sagan had? As I seem to remember looking at Carl Sagan's qualifications, and he'd essentially named something. I'll have to look it up. Give me a minute.
Oh, so I wasn't that off then, huh?
I was just looking up on free space path loss, and it talks about radio signals between two isotropic antennas, and how you would lose some of that signal over distance. That's the gist that I'm getting off of this. I'm also reading Wikipedia, so I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's a lot more than that. And you got another big assumption here is what's between you and the moon?
Atmosphere.
And what else?
I don't know, just atmosphere.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's not only what you do know, it's the more important thing here is what you don't. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to keep reading this.
Just while you do, so I just found the article. I wasn't quite right. So Sagan argued the now accepted hypothesis, in parentheses, not our scientific hypothesis, that the high surface temperatures of Venus can be attributed to and calculated using the greenhouse effect.
That's a good one. Great hypothesis. Did they cite the independent dependent variables in
They
that?
didn't. No, and they wouldn't have those either.
I'd like to see the control variables too in the experiment.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they varied.
Yeah, their imagination.
Indeed. But it wasn't quite naming something, but some bullshit he made up about something that he sees in the sky. He's just said, that's the greenhouse effect on that light up there. Oh, really? You're just saying that, right? Yeah. Well, that's now an accepted, apparently, scientific hypothesis. Put the word hypothesis in front of any old bullshit, and anybody that doesn't appreciate the difference between pseudoscience and science will go, hypothesis, you say? Wow, that sounds scientific. Better trust what this dude says about the greenhouse effect on a light in the sky.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
But maybe he followed the first step, which was ask a question.
No. What he did was he followed the first step. He observed a natural phenomena, of course. He observed the natural phenomena of a second law of thermodynamics violation claimed to be a gas next to a vacuum. And then he decided to call that gas next to a vacuum a greenhouse effect. Because, yeah, man, violations of a law of nature classed as natural phenomena.
What a clowns, man.
Hey, Chocolate, you had a point about astronomers looking up. There's a site called starregistration.com. And for a small fee and many different categories, you can name a star and they'll send you a certificate and a celestial map and an official registration form. So if it's a standard one, it's only $39.90. If it's a constellation, it's $59.
I get to adopt a star, like adopting a dog in some other country. That's awesome.
Right,
No,
you interested?
more than adopt.
Hold on. There might be a puncher
here.
here.
To name it.
You interested in doing that then, Chocolate? I can do it for half price.
You stole my.
I'm gonna shop
mojo.
around for better prices now. So
I'm serious, man.
You got
If you-
first dibs.
Look, man, I'm dead serious. If you want to name a star, I can make that happen.
You
Oh,
stole
but
my
that's
line.
black market though, Nathan. That's not gonna come on the official registry.
Look, I know you're going to just set up your own star naming bullshit, Arwin, so shh.
Star win.
I wouldn't mind a chocolate saying star. Why not?
Oh, chocolate saying that's quite a lot of letters. I might not be half price.
All right.
Chocolate saying maybe we could find a planet to name after you. We'll call it Vegeta.
I know that doesn't come cheap.
No, the binary
wow.
ones are $99.
Get buy one, get two off.
I mean, Disney paid a lot for Pluto.
It's just a dog and pony show.
Boom boom.
Profound and hilarious.
I like your cafe mocha, whatever. I don't know how you got all that memorized, but you did good on that one, Kiwi.
No foam.
Yeah, no foam.
Do you think that
Did
was
everybody watch
a salute to my
Ghostbusters last Sunday?
accelerating coffee cup? Apparently, people remember that shit. I go to 24/7 talking about accelerated coffee cups. I'm like, what the hell? This shit is following me around now. Awesome.
Not to story top, but somebody had trimmed out a little piece of an interview with Mark Sargent, and he's essentially describing the second law of thermodynamics violation that is the so-called outer space, otherwise known as a sky vacuum, and he's detailing it beautifully. And I'm like, if I was QE right now, I'd be really proud.
Really? Mark Sargent was doing that?
Yeah. I'll dig out the clip. I'll send it to you. He does a really good job of
you.
it. You know, perfect. You couldn't fault him.
Sweet.
Mark Sargent's been talking about gas pressure for years, though.
Sure, but it's more the fact that it's been succinctly summarised in such a concise way by QE to the point where you can bang bye space with a couple of sentences. Just want to shout out Leonardo Gonzalez.
I see, yeah.
Nathan, if chocolate doesn't want in, here's my 20. No worries, I'll send you out a certificate, Leonardo Gonzalez.
That's awesome.
I was going to say, did
Shout out,
everybody
Leo.
watch Globebusters last Sunday?
I've just had an email from Leonardo Gonzalez that says he wants his star to be called Chocolate Saying, and he's got a website advertising it for sale.
That's awesome.
Oh, this guy's
Good look.
hang on, this guy's smart. He's going to turn around after naming it Chocolate Saint and sell it to Chocolate Saint for more. Good job, Leonardo.
I don't know. Can't hustle a hustler. I'm from New York.
Yeah, you don't have to like it. You don't have to like it, chocolate. You know, obviously people are spotting the value in this, and you know, I can only nod my own head to my entrepreneurial skills in this regard.
It's too late, Chocolate. He patented your
Happy to
name.
help.
You lost your name.
If you do want a
Can
star
never do that.
naming, yeah, you feel free. Smash the super chat. I can do this all day. I mean night. Night, not day. Night.
It's a binary star. We could name the other one Vanilla Sand. I'm down with that.
And Nathan, you have an endless supply of stars since the universe is expanding. You'll be rich in a day.
Yeah, that's it. Just buy a stronger telescope if I ever run out. Speaking of telescopes, my mother-in-law's pestering my wife to get rid of the telescope I dumped off there when we had our first child. So I haven't had a telescope now for 3 years. And it's just sat there. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? How can I convince her to keep it? Because I don't want to get rid of it. It's my telescope, right? I could find someone to give it away to. I'm like, I don't want to give it away. I didn't even want to take it out the apartment in the first place. Anyway, enough of me moaning. Shout out to Take Back Space, Christie's channel. Pretty much eradicated the need for a telescope anyway. Are you still arguing with Trish in Skype, Anthony? Take that as a yes.
Sorry, I didn't realise I was on mute. No. She's just got a different view. I don't agree with her. I'm legally correct. She's legally incorrect. It's the end of the matter. It is.
Interesting, because the other day when we were discussing their critique of your paper with what was claimed to be a solicitor analysing it, he deemed that it would be a loser, and Trish's comment on that was to say, you know, I can give my assessment of something in terms of how I would argue it, but to just say anything's a winner or a loser outright is something that solicitors don't tend to do. And I got the impression she was sort of hinting at, I don't necessarily think this guy is what he says he is. And then Spurs put something up in regards to him questioning something that I think it's the same dude, I could be wrong, but somebody questioning whether or not judges had the ability to interpret the meaning of words in context of law. And
I think Spurs got it slightly wrong. I think what the guy said, the problem with Spurs is he played a bloody advert over the top of the critical part when this guy was saying this bit that I was listening for. I can't hear what the guy says exactly. I can hear snippets in between the noises, like gunshots that Spurs has got firing because he's a Burke. And what the guy's saying is that the judge is not going to be deciding the shape of the earth. And he's right. The shape of the earth isn't relevant for the discussion. What's relevant is the way that it's being taught lawful or not. So it's got nothing to do with the shape of the earth. And I think that's what the guy was saying, but I couldn't hear it because Spurs is an idiot. He's overlaid the sound on top of it, so I can't hear what the guy's actually saying. But no, I don't think Spurs has got the recite correct with what he said. I actually agree with the other guy when he said that the judge will not be deciding what shape the earth is. He won't be, and I do agree with that. But I can't, like I say, I can't hear what's being said because Spurs is a spaz. Shout out to Spurs. Chocolate.
Hold on, just read out a super chat. Trish Blythe says, not until they have had consideration, I have had consideration, and I will debate him live. If he wants to call me out and say he's won, lol. So she's super chatted twice. She's proper heckling you, Anthony. I like it a lot. I like you, Trish. You're ace. So she's basically calling you out and saying, I'd like to debate you on this subject.
Yeah, I'm not going to debate somebody on my side of the discussion to give ammunition to the baller's hammer. So I'm not prepared to have a small battle with Trish on a point that I disagree with her on if it helps them with the bigger battle overall. So as much as I'm happy to do it, because I don't agree with Trish's interpretation of the intentions of the Act of Parliament in question and how she comes to her conclusion, I'm not prepared to give the ballers any ammunition. So at this time, right now, Trish, you respectfully declined on the basis that I'm not going to give them any ammunition at all.
I totally respect that. That's fair enough. That was in the back of my mind when she asked. That was kind of what I thought. I was going to stab you in the back and go, I've already had that discussion with you and Trish. I listened in, and at the end I sided with her. But you know, I'm not. That's a totally dick move. But I've done it in a segue, so I'm not really doing that.
There are many ways to interpret and skin a cat, and just because Trish has a view is a view doesn't mean that that's the way that it's going to go because she has a view. In the same way, it doesn't mean that it'll go the way that I have because I have a different but similar view. You don't know what a judge is going to decide, and anyone that says that they do is a moron because judges can change the law as well as change the definitions at will. They're arseholes. That's why no one really likes going to court because it just depends on what mood the judge is in. There's a lot of things a judge can do. So whilst Trish has presented an argument that is credible, I disagree with it, and I'm entitled to disagree with it, and so is everybody. She's entitled to disagree with mine.
She's got one last poke for you. I've got to read it out. It says, if you are so sure you will win, let's debate. Now, I've got to side with Anthony on that score, I'm afraid, Trish. And what all you're doing is kind of, the conclusion we had at the end of yesterday's conversation was that this is surplus to requirements. This isn't destined for a courtroom. It's never going to be adjudicated by a judge. It's an academic paper. And in terms of the way that it's been intentionally phrased for Anthony to conform to get his mark, he has to provide both sides of the argument and an in-depth understanding of the legal point within a specific area of his chosen subject. Well, he's done that. So what Trish wants to do, and Anthony, I know he won't deny it, also wants to do this, is he wants to see what would happen hypothetically if this was ever taken to its fruition, which isn't really necessary. Now, in terms of the argument that it stimulates, in terms of that, I think in the future, yeah, that would be perfectly valid to do. But I think at this particular juncture, it's not really fair to do that to Anthony. Not just.
I don't mind having a pre-recorded moot with Trish that we agree that we don't release until after a certain key date, because I don't want to give the ballers any ammunition. If you've got I know Trish's argument. I disagree with her for legitimate reasons, and I'm all for having a moot. But I'm not going to give the ballers any ammunition at all when this point that you're arguing right now, Trish, they've not even seen yet. So let's not have that. Let's not give them any ammunition. I will agree in front of everybody right now that we can debate a moot. We can moot the point that you're asking for, but not to be released before a certain landmark is passed, because I'm not giving them ammunition. But if you want a moot and you want a disagreement, bring it on, sister. I'm all for it.
Hold on. It's not what she's asking for. She says, that's right, Nathan, to my last point, which I won't repeat because I'm about to round out the live show and ask the people watching on the Premier stream to stay tuned. But she's saying, don't call me out then, basically. And she's laughing about it. So I know this is all, friendly. But as I say, if you are watching this on... one more time, thanks very much for the super chats, Trish Blythe. Really appreciate your support. If you are watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980... No, 19... Start again. If you're watching this on Nathan Oakley, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980, got there in the end, then this is where we bid you farewell. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com. She's still poking you, Anthony. She says, not pre-recorded, live, because I'm confident. Great poke. I like Trish. She's great. Anyway, stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley. Another massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!